All right, Michael, we are live on YouTube. You may begin whenever you're ready.
All right, awesome. Welcome everybody to tonight's March 17th, 2026 full design review board meeting. I call us to order. We have a quorum of 6 out of 9 members. Um, I do not have any opening remarks other than that I have a black eye from my 5-year-old son. No explanation needed. Do I hear a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved by Mike B.
Motion by Mike B. Do I hear a second?
Seconded by Emily.
Second by Emily. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, any against? All right, motion passed 6-0. LaShonda, I'm assuming we have some meeting minutes we need to approve.
Yes, February 17th, February 24th, March 3rd, and March 10th.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve February 17th, February 24th, March 3rd, and March 10th meeting minutes?
So moved.
We've got a motion by Mike B. Do I hear a second?
Seconded by Emily.
Boom. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any
Aye.
against? All right, motion passes 6-0 as well. All right, so tonight, all we have on the agenda from a public standpoint is a work session for the STEAM students from South Lakes High School. Is Marco, yeah, there he is. Maybe bring on Marco first, and then I'm sure he'll introduce us to everybody.
Yes, can you all hear me? I think I just took off my mic.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, so we're the only ones on the agenda. Great.
You're the only ones, man. Everyone else backed off. They were
Okay. Well, the kids have quite a report, quite a presentation to give you all. I just want to say we're in our 14th year, and I just want to say thank you to LaShonda for putting up with the back and forth emails. And this program now, 14 years in its existence, is still growing, and new kids enter the program and do amazing things, and you will see that in a minute. We are now not only STEAM Team, but also STEAM Team National Art Honor Society. So while you'll see this one project going on, I just have to let you guys know there's like 3 other projects going on with the students doing some public artwork. So sit back and enjoy the show, and I will let the students introduce themselves as they present. They've kind of rehearsed their responsibilities for which slides they will be reviewing. Okay, does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, fantastic. So with no further ado, I am going to I believe it's Jaya who will be sharing the first slide. Are you guys operating the slideshow like you've done in the past? Or she could
That is
say,
correct.
okay, she'll just say next slide, and then we'll move
Yes.
on from there. All right, fantastic. Jaya, it's your show.
Okay, so yeah, every year we do our spillway project, and this is just kind of our plan for this year. Okay, so right now on the lake we have last year's project, which is called Celestial. That is a galvanized steel powder coated frame with the white connectors, which are the same, and then also crocheted rope with aluminum painted discs on it. So for our next project, what we're doing this year that's new is we are keeping the steel frame, but we are removing the rope and the aluminum discs, and we are putting something new up this year. So actually I think this is this Ozzy or Alex?
This is my part. I think the meeting wasn't letting me unmute myself for a second there. Sorry. So, here are some designs that we were considering doing before we settled on what we're planning to do. Next slide, please. So the first of these concepts is the flag concept, which would involve flags created by people at the Tephra Art Festival that would be displayed on the structure. And we ended up not choosing this idea because we felt it was too similar to the discs that we did last year. And then another idea we had was frames. We would use string in various patterns to kind of create this cool effect. And this one was really popular with the STEAM team, but it was ultimately not chosen because we, in a previous meeting with Public Art Reston, they voted against this one and chose the mesh and leaf models, so we decided to take it out of our vote to respect the partnership. And the mesh concept, the mesh on this model represents netting, which would be strung between the existing poles, and on the netting, discs with art would be displayed. And we didn't choose this idea ultimately because it wasn't really developed enough and we were worried about what it would look like. And then this is the concept we ended up going with 69.2% of the vote.
So we ended up choosing the leaf model because of the green. We thought it was nice with the orange. It kind of balanced out the more intense colors, and also it reflected the nature in Reston, and it kind of brought that aspect into our sculpture this year.
Addison, we're asking you to unmute.
I'm sorry, but these aren't my slides. These are Tegan's slides, I'm pretty sure. No.
All right, sorry about that. No, me and Addie switched slides in the last minute because she understood the content of some of the other ones better. For our starting inspiration, we really took inspiration from the way nature interacts with structures, as we knew we were going to repurpose the structure that was already on the lake, the orange architectural structure. So we really looked at the ways vines and leaves wrapped around other things to create a cohesive nature look. Next slide, please. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you now.
Sorry, it seems my internet is very bad right now. I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
Next slide, please.
Sure.
There we are. All right. So our process, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, it seems that the slideshow is not catching up on my side.
Which slide would you like us to go
I
to?
can't really see the
process and
slideshow.
material?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Sure.
So when we started our process, we knew that after our vote that what we wanted to do is we wanted to incorporate vines onto our structure. And then once we figured out a method as to how to do that, we then moved on to embellishing. We embellished with the idea of a wisteria flower, which is a naturally hanging flower, so it would fit very well into the corners and have a very lively look to it. And it also kept our materials down to a few different types of nylon, working with outdoor fabrics and different types of rope. And the idea followed longevity and a different type of garden. Next slide, please. This was just kind of how we thought our thought process along application and how we kind of went around trying to measure and think of how each flower would look, how each leaf would look, how everyone could contribute and do it together as a method of instruction. Next slide, please. While our cost isn't finalized yet, we're trying to look at the most serious and the most long-lasting material there is. So we're looking at 4DD ripstop nylon, we're looking at special thread, and we're looking at sewing especially. And this is just kind of an idea of how some of our math has been going so far. Nothing is finalized yet. Next slide, please. We looked at Daniela Hatch as a public fabric artist who does short-term sculptures using also the nylon. And so we really solidified the usage of sewing. As you can see, she has a very wonderful use of layering and movement, and we really wanted to embody that with our flowers. Next slide, please. So for the flowers especially, our biggest inspiration was wisteria. It's a naturally hanging flower, and it's really pretty, especially when they're all bunched together and they're not only a certain color. It came from the idea of hanging flowers in different art installations, dream catchers, and many more. Next slide, please. So this is where we really started our models and prototype section, where we tried different types of cord, from Dyneema to a paracord, different. We landed on intertwining the leaves in the rope, so the rope could just be wrapped around for optimal strength. So when designing the flowers, what our first thought was how we could get volume in the petals. But originally we folded organic shapes in half and used different dividers. But one of the problems was it wasn't very aerodynamic. So we used a connular shape in order to mimic the wisteria flowers, as you can see from the purple. And it turned out to be very aerodynamic, and it was very smooth. It also, because of the nylon fabric, it's very water resistant, and with the connular shape flipped over, no water and no other material would get caught and weigh it down. Next slide, please. Khadija, I'm going to hand this off to you.
Yeah, so this was where we were just testing out different ways to make stoppers for our wisteria flowers. And as you can see, we tried knotting the rope and using a heat shrinking tube over it to sort of prevent the knot from coming out. And we also tried just directly melting the ropes too. And we were also looking at sort of different adhesives because to keep the wisteria together. And we tried Gorilla Glue on it and other types, but because of the way the nylon is made, the fabric is very slippery and smooth. So the material just was not sticking onto any glue properly. And so we decided not to use an adhesive. And next slide. And so over here you can see on our petal, the purple cone, we ended up deciding to use a zigzag stitch on it because we felt that would be a lot more secure than just using an adhesive in the long term. And down there is just more ideas for our stoppers, which like it would be cutting up an acrylic tube, a lightweight tube, or some light beads to put in between the petals. We did not end up using the tubing idea because it would just take too long to cut up the tubes, and it would be more difficult. Yeah. And next slide. So this was our first test on a prototype. We tied the leaf model onto Mr. Rando's truck to sort of see how it would hold in the weather that it would have to like withstand when it's on the actual structure. So over there, day 2, we saw some ripping on the nylon, but that was actually from our application and not from the weather itself. And on day 3, we noticed that there was fraying on the edges. So to prevent ripping or like any more fraying, we decided on like the final model we would like seal the edges with heat, and also just to prevent any fraying. And next slide. So this is another wisteria model we were trying. This one was with our idea with using acrylic tubing, acrylic tubes. I mean, as you can see, that's the middle, that's the stopper, that's the stopper, and that's the tube stopper in the middle. And but the weight of the tube was actually sort of pressing down onto the bottom flowers, and it was just not like a good sign for it, and that's another reason why we decided to scrap it. And that's next slide. And this is also another test we did on the wisteria. This was with a washer divider. We thought this would be a better idea to make a knot and then put a washer and then the petal on top, so that if the hole to slip the wisteria on would fray or anything, the washer could prevent the wisteria from like completely going over the knot. And the washer would also add like the needed weight to stop it from swaying too much in the wind and wrapping over itself without like just putting too much weight on the petals itself. And it's we decided on the washers instead. And I believe these are Ozzy's slides.
I can talk through these. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I can talk through these slides. These are not my slides, but I'm not sure whose they are. But we basically were researching different types of rope, what would be the best to use. And based on what we had researched, the Dyneema was the best performance-wise, but had the highest cost. But we weren't sure about the budget yet. Reinforced Dyneema in a braided pattern was the one that we decided on. But we ended up switching to paracord for part of it. I think it was because of like not durability, but like weight, I think. Next slide, please. So for the adhesives, we looked into a lot of different adhesives that wouldn't require sewing because we knew that it would take a long time. But in the end, we tried Gorilla Glue, which was the one that seemed to fit the criteria the most, but it didn't work as well as we needed it to. And we figured out that sewing was going to be like the best idea if we wanted it to be properly durable. We just have to find outdoor thread in a high quantity and find a way to sew that is like efficient.
These are my slides again. So these are just some color palettes we were looking at for the wisteria petals. At first, these were like at first we were looking at sort of pinks and purples, to like for the petals, but we decided not to use that because we thought that the amount of colors would clash with the final product and be too busy since the poles were orange and the leaves would also be green. And we were also looking at warmer color palettes too with yellows and oranges, but we were also worried that about the long-term appearance of the yellows, and how it would like affect how it looked, sort of. And we decided to stick to darker color palettes after that. And this was the final color palette that was voted on by our STEAM group. We will be using different hues of purples and blues, and we thought it would look nice with the poles and the leaves because it will be complementary with them. And these are back to
these are now my slides. So as we were doing our lake project, we were also thinking of Tephra. So we decided to continue with the nature theme and have like some patterns of just like regular patterns of animals and some flowers. We decided to do block printing with these. So Steam would carve out all the patterns and other things that the people at Tephra would be printing on their thing, on their papers or shirts. And we will provide the stamps and also the colors for the people during Tephra. Next slide. These are some designs that I think Khadijah worked on. So we are still on the early process of these, but it is a good starting point for when we are going to continue working on Tephra. I think these are now Aussies.
Yes. So for our April calendar, as you can see, we're mostly doing our first week will be cutting things out. The next week will be sewing. Then we'll cut the leaves and try to braid them into the vines. This April will be pretty focused on like direct production. Sorry. And then if you can go to the next slide. In May, we're more focused on Tephra, but the wonderful people who made this calendar, they gave us some buffer time so that if we are not done with the production stuff, then we will be able to still get it done in time. If we're ready, we'll be able to apply it by like the 28th and 29th. I believe our goal is to have it done by either the end of May or like the beginning of January. Next slide. Our calendar is not like very super rigid, although it should pan out the way that we want it to. But if we need to take a little longer or we need to take a little less time, we're very able to do that. And that's something that we had to think of while we were plotting it. It also depends on when we get our materials ordered.
All right, that's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. We'll go around the room and thank you for coming. And I know for tonight, this is just a work session, right, Mr. Rando? So you guys are looking for feedback, and then you guys will come back and present the kind of final design, kind of put all together, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great.
That's
So let me just go around the room, see if anyone has any questions, comments, and then we'll, have some discussion. So, Emily, did you have any comments, questions for the students?
Just real quick, my only notes are that I really enjoy the inspiration. I think that the wisteria is going to be gorgeous. I encourage you guys to lean into the sewing tactics that you've been looking into. If you look at like old beading technology of like, every washer you would put a stitch through and so on and so forth. I think that's really going to ensure this thing can withstand the elements. My only other thought is that honestly, I really do think that we should not stick with the orange powder coated. If there's a way that we can get away from the orange and green and purple, that just to me personally, I don't think is going to mesh very well. I'd love to see if there's a way that we can make it either brown or even like blending in more with the lake area. I just think that the orange is going to be a bit obnoxious, to be perfectly honest, and not make it look as natural as we were hoping. Other than that, just I know because the one we have is going to have to go through next winter. And if we have one like this, I'm worried about ice and water. Have you guys like pressure tested this stuff under all weather conditions? Like how is it going to be when the fabric is weighted down? So I think that's just in general my questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for your questions. As to the orange color, the color of our vines, and they're gonna be pretty thick because the rope we're gonna use is 4 millimeters, and then we're gonna braid it. So what we're trying to do was use the green to neutralize the orange by wrapping as much as possible around the orange poles we're not able to cover up the orange galvanized steel. So we're going to try and cover it up with the green as much as possible. That's also the reason why the leaves are so big and we chose the vine color that we did. As for weather testing, we've done a lot of testing, one of them being on a truck and having it out for about a month at this point, and it's gone through many different types of weather conditions. We've also tested with water and making sure it is water resistant and the cupping holds up.
Awesome. That's all great. Thank you guys so much. And the only other thing I would say is that, with the powder coating, maybe examine something like, I don't know, I'm even thinking of like wrapping it with like a brown. This is just my first thought off the top of like maybe like either a brown nylon fabric that wraps all the way around it that would help kind of conceal the orange a little bit more, or even, I hesitate to say it, duct tape, because it can
I literally
withstand
had
the
the same
elements.
thought.
Yeah, I just think something to camouflage the orange because it's gonna. I honestly think it's gonna clash really badly. But I think it's good to hear that you guys have been tackling the elements and stress testing this stuff. But sounds good so far. That's it from me, Michael.
Great, thanks, Emily. Samantha?
Hi. Oh, thank you so much for coming and present this. It's a very strong idea and beautifully researched and thinking through all these details. So I don't have any question, and I just excited to wait to see the result come out.
Great.
Of course, thank you so much.
Michael, Camellia did join.
Yes, I saw that. I got her on my list. I'm gonna give her some time there to get in before I ask her. Brian, do you have any questions?
Not sure if I have any questions. Just a couple comments.
Comments. Yeah.
First of all, thank you all very much. I love this project. Every year I'm excited to see how it changes and transforms. So there's a couple things I really like. I love that you're reusing the structure and completely transforming it. I think that's a really strong idea and really fun. I really like the color palette you chose because I think it's going to be so different than what we see now out on the lake. And so I agree with Emily. I absolutely love the idea about you guys sewing everything together or sewing the leaves and kind of like really putting in that kind of effort into it. I agree. That's probably the best course of action. I'd kind of encourage you guys. I do know it's going to be time consuming. I encourage you to grab your friends and see if they can help you out with that because I think it will be really strong. I think it will make it durable. I can see Emily's point on kind of hiding the orange structure. I was sort of thinking that one thing I didn't quite understand maybe from the original model and kind of where you all are going is like how much of that orange tubing you're going to see, because I think in terms of the presidents that you saw, like Daniel Hatch and so these wisteria colors, I think it's going to be all about like adding layer after layer after layer and making it look really, really dense. So that you're going to hide a lot of that orange structure. I don't really mind seeing like maybe a little bit at the foot, or maybe on one side you see a little bit more. So it's like this idea that it's kind of growing up and over the vines from your concept. So I don't mind seeing a little bit of it. Maybe you see more from the lake than from the street, or vice versa, something like that. But I would just encourage you all to like kind of keep making more and more of these flower petals, so that it's going to have some movement, it's going to have some layering and things like that. That's really going to make it so different than what's there now. I mean, right now you kind of see through it and everything like that. And I want to also make sure that what I like about it now is that it's not only visual, but you can hear it. Like as when the wind blows, you hear like the metal discs and things like that. So I'd encourage you to like make sure that like there's still movement within the various layers of this, so that when the wind blows and stuff like that, it does have some movement and kind of brings a little more life to it. But I think that's it for now. But I'll thank you all very much. I'm really excited about it.
Thanks, Brian. Mike B.
No additional comments. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and presenting. It's always a terrific project, and we love to see you guys each year. So thank you again, and good luck. Can't wait to see the finished product. So,
Gazde.
Hi, I really enjoyed the presentation and the level of detail that you dived in, especially, with stitches and thinking through, what's going to hold it up together and what's going to not work for you, and all the imagery and inspiration. That's all inspiring for all of us. My question is, I missed the part about the tephra. I didn't miss listening to it. I just thought, where is the mock stamp designs, all those beautiful things going in? I think it's page, what is it? 28, 29?
28, 29.
Yeah, that's where they were.
Does somebody want to comment on that?
Yeah, so where are the fabric going to get block printing, and what's going to happen there?
So unlike how directly Tephra was and the community put stuff on the discs and the disc went straight onto the lake, this is more so contributing the theme of garden and flowers. We're going to use animal and flower and floral patterns on little prints that we'll make, block printing, and we'll have some of the classes at South Lakes carve them out, and then we'll bring them to the festival, and we're going to let them print on multitude of different things, like different papers and cards and fabrics, just so they can contribute to the theme of the floral design, not so much directly on to the sculpture.
Mm-hmm. All right, I understand. Thank you so much. Good job.
So I'm a follow-up question. So you're not going to be printing anything on the actual nylon. I know I was looking up some Danielle Hatch installation she's done, and she's done writing and some other things on her actual fabric, but the fabric will just be plain in this instance.
Yes, that is the hope, just due to the amount of petals and leaves we'll need. For petals, at least, we'll need over 1,000, and we didn't know how much that the different colors and patterns would either clash or maybe look cohesive, especially because we're doing different colors of petals and trying to maybe make them a gradient or produce a pattern on its own. We didn't know how much that little stamps would contribute to like the overall.
Gotcha. Okay. Camelia, did you have any thoughts, comments? I know you joined a little late, but. Camelia, you there? I thought I saw her. Maybe she left.
She was on, but I don't see her anymore. I think she left about 5 minutes ago.
Okay. So I had a couple questions, and so I just wanted to work through kind of some of the slides. And I thank you for your presentation. I do like that we're reusing the structure because I know there was an investment that took in time to get it up. I also have the hesitation with the color, and I think it's also because we're not quite, we obviously we don't have a final model yet. So if we go to slide 11 as an example, staff, please. So the final intent, because I was trying to piece together all the final decisions that were voted on. And so let's say, so we're going to have the orange structure that then is going to be wrapped, and correct me if I'm wrong at any of these stages, is going to be wrapped with the paracord that essentially is then the flowers are then going to be connected to the paracord that are going to be the wisteria, which is going to be the purple, indigo, blue palette. Is there also going to be the green? What color is the paracord that you guys voted on?
The paracord color is going to be a green, and the paracord that is wrapped around the poles are going to have leaves attached to them. The leaves are going to be 6.5 inches, and they're going to be across both sides of the rope. So about 14 to 15 inches of fabric across, and they will be wrapped around the poles. And from the poles hanging will be a plethora of different lengths of wisteria, ranging from 2 feet to 7 feet.
So do you guys have a model of have you guys built like a little model like this of what the final kind of decisions has been yet?
Yes, we are kind of in the process of updating the model that you see in front of you to add the wisteria onto it, because we knew that what you see in front of you, while it was a good idea, we could always expand and make it more detailed. And so that's what we're kind of finalizing right now.
Yeah, because I think that would really help for the next for the next presentation when we're going for final approval, is really seeing what kind of how this color palette comes together. And maybe, I know Emily suggested duct tape as an option. I actually was thinking the same thing, something economical that could potentially cover some of the powder coating without kind of ruining the powder coating if the plan was to reuse, in the future. But I think showing how much of that orange is going to be exposed, and I know it's at a much smaller scale, but trying to show it, I think would be really helpful for next month's meeting. And seeing the color palette kind of fully come together. I think, flower installations, when they are successful, it's a huge quantity of flowers, right? Is usually the best way an installation of flowers looks. So the quantity, I know you guys, are talking about over 1,000. More in my opinion on this, more is better. Even more, the most you can get, the better. So having an efficient way to make them is definitely going to be, I think, your challenge. But I think it sounds like you guys have obviously been investigating that and trying to, find the best method on how to make them not only the most robust, but also, kind of time oriented, right? So I think that having that next meeting would be really helpful. And maybe even look at varying the sizing of the flowers. I don't know if that would help, not doing them all so small. Maybe there is a variation of flower sizes that could work here, that then would also help give you that extra layers of different sizes, different colors, different, just volumes that you're creating would also maybe be helpful in covering and masking the poles as an example. So that's just the thought. Maybe it'll help, because I was doing a little bit of research on that Daniel Hatch, and I didn't know I know she did an installation in Reston a few years back. Were you guys able to talk with her directly, Marco, at all, or was Tefra or was the Institute able to hook you up?
No, we actually didn't talk with her, but we always can, and we've talked about reaching out to her. And I know if we talk to Tefra, Phoebe Avery at Tefra or Janelle, I think she's somewhat local, so maybe she could come and chat with the group. But we have in the past, we've had like Ben Volta and Marianne Mears have come and spoke to the kids. This year we just
And
have.
she may just have some advice with fabrics, right? And so that's the reason why I'm bringing it up is she obviously works with this on her is a profession. So, as the, I'm going to date myself, but, slide into the DMs and just
Yeah.
see if she will respond, who knows? I mean, she's done installations in Reston Town Center before, so it's not
Yeah.
like a huge, she's been up here before, so maybe she'd be willing to come back. So just an idea. But I think definitely for next month, because the plan is to come back next month, right, for final approval on this.
Yes.
I think having a cohesive of all the votes, basically of what the selections have been in a model format, and maybe like a bigger, let's call it mock-up. I know you guys have done the mock-up on your truck, but kind of a more accurate mock-up of the sizing. I don't know if that's something you guys can. I know you guys are going to start having to order fabric and things like that, but having a slightly larger mock-up of what's going on, even if it's not a full, it doesn't need to be all the existing installation, but just something that's on a pole of the same size with a 2-foot, 3-foot section of the pole, I think could be helpful to kind of help see whether this is going to be successful from a design standpoint. So
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. About the amount of flowers, we're have measured to about 56 strands of flowers divided evenly amongst each side. But of course, we have enough room and we can, of course, crunch the numbers and make more strands of flowers. When it comes to the production of said flowers, it is going to be a lot of sewing. Over 1,000, 2,000 petals. It's going to be a lot. So we're thinking about reaching out to the community in any sort of way, to the different home economics classrooms and different schools, and just maybe like quilting communities and different sort of public engagement to help us get it done.
yeah, I think they do. I think they have a sewing class at Reston Community Center. That I would, maybe you could reach out to them as well, as an option. All right, well, cool. Does anyone have any other comments, or does the group have any questions for us, or?
Questions, guys? Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to share any of the name ideas you were considering? Crickets. Okay. Well,
we'll be surprised next month.
Yes, I think they'll have some name concepts there they can share with you and ask your opinion on which one you guys like.
Okay.
But some wonderful feedback, and I know they've been taking notes. So it's back to the drawing board, as we would say.
All right, great. Well, thank you guys for coming, and appreciate your time as always to come and present to us. And we're hoping, we're gonna have a discussion later today about maybe having an in-person meeting for the next one. So give you guys a little bit of in-person presentation experience, which I know you've been promoting, Marco, from maybe last year, maybe even 2 years prior. So trying to get you guys for that. I know, me going through architecture school the whole time, what we pinned up every week, and so you have to present in front of people, and testing your designs and theories in front of people and explaining it always is a little bit different dynamic. So
that would be awesome.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you again for coming tonight, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so next up on our agenda, kind of a good little spillway into Cam and LaShonda in virtual/in-person meetings for us as a design review board. Cam or LaShonda, who is going to be chatting about that?
I was hoping it was going to be you.
Me? Yeah, that's fine. I can chat about it. On the agenda it had you or LaShonda, so I can jump.
I can roll into it for you. How about that?
Yeah.
I have been here for 6 years almost, and I have never had an in-person DRB meeting. And I think, Michael, as the chair, you're the only person that has attended an in-person DRB meeting. And because of COVID, we had to make shifts and changes. But after some conversations with the chair, and some other DRB members, it does appear that there may be interest in having at least the full DRB meetings or some level of full DRB meetings being a in-person opportunity. I do know that there has been consensus in previous iterations of the DRB that there has not been an interest in making panel meetings in person. Each panel can make that decision on their own. But one of the opportunities that we have is that there is often a need for some collegiality amongst the design review board members. I don't think that many of you have consistently had an opportunity to engage in person and see these types of presentations that we just saw being conducted in person. Some of our larger projects, the design review board will be hearing are specific and detail oriented that may require some sort of aspect of it being in person as a preference to some DRB members. I know that historically, those larger projects, those work sessions, as an example, for like Reston Town Center North, there is a benefit to having those types of presentations being conducted in person, and that generally happens at the full design review board. So we are happy and ready to support the design review board in whatever the design review board ultimately decides with transitioning some of your meetings to in person potentially for the full design review board. I know that we have shared with the chair that maybe one meeting per quarter could be in person for DRB members to be the only people joining virtually. So we would be announcing the meeting as an in-person meeting, and DRB members could be joining virtually or turning the meeting into a hybrid meeting where both DRB members and applicants can join in a hybrid environment. There are staffing components that are required for both hybrid and in-person meetings. That technically is not a huge concern for you all, as you also are supported by the wonderful Covenants Administration Department at Reston, so there shouldn't be any issues with that. However, one of the downfalls of meetings is that technology is something that comes and goes, and as we saw tonight, that could be a problem. And so if we do announce a hybrid meeting, if one of those, i.e., if the technology fails us, that the meeting does have to stop if we do a hybrid meeting. So I do want to kind of give the floor back to Michael, as I know this is something that the chair has been discussing amongst the DRB members in the past. So we are here to serve you all in the best way possible. So I will turn it over to Michael to let you all know what kind of is on his mind.
Yeah, so thank you, Cam. So I think, the big thing, and I think maybe we can clarify, I personally think it's just very important for full DRB. I think panel meetings, I think we should keep as Zoom meetings, remote meetings, whatever we want to call them. I think it helps the membership for not only us be able to do them because they're at 5:30. It's a tough time to even try to make it to RA headquarters, to be honest with you. I'm still finishing up my day sometimes and rushing to the meeting. So for 5:30, I think panel meetings, staying virtual, I think is in my opinion, a great thing. And also, to me, the members that not DRB members, but RA members who have to join in, I think it's a little bit more convenient for them. When we get to the bigger discussions that are either appeals, who have been before us multiple times and then have to come back to full board, or these bigger projects that kind of get kicked up to full board, I think those, I hear, kind of the quarterly option as an idea, but I think if we just did, in my opinion, just hybrid for DRB members only and required any full, rest of the public to come in, I don't think if a DRB member that's attending virtually if they had complications, Cam, as long as we still had quorum, we would be able to continue the meeting, correct?
That is correct.
So it would only be if we did a hybrid meeting where everybody was allowed to be hybrid and that, person presenting fell off, let's say, during the meeting, then we would have to pause at that point, correct?
We'd have to pause with that application.
That
But if it were like a technology issue and you lost quorum because those that were on the DRB were not present, you'd have to end the meeting.
That'd be a little bit of an issue. Yeah. And is that person who's attending virtually, are they on video? Are they just calling in? Like, how does it?
I know many of you have watched the RA board meeting, several iterations of it. And so it would be very similar to the RA board meeting, which we would be hosting the meeting through Zoom. You all would join virtually. There would be a television set up so that you all could view each other. The cameras would be on, and it would be recorded from the room. So those people in the room would be visible to those who are watching the live stream on YouTube or through the meeting itself.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I feel like when I've watched one in the past, I just feel like I heard the person, I didn't really see them on YouTube or wherever I was watching the replay. I couldn't see if they were on video or not. So, I mean, if we go around the room, I mean, I know Mike B has always said that he would have to attend virtually.
So-
is that still the fact, Mike?
For the 5:30, I got to do virtual.
Yeah,
For
for sure. Yeah.
for the once a month full DRB, Michael, I could, again, with proper notice that it's coming, which obviously we would have, I can probably make it work as my youngest is, mine. I don't have an infant anymore. I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay.
That being said, Cam, would it presumably be in the same room I've attended in person for the full board of directors, and they've got I was going to say pulpit, but they've got a setup for whoever's addressing the board in question, and then the screen on the wall for everyone to take notice of the folks who are remote. Presumably same setup, right?
That's correct.
Okay. It worked pretty seamlessly the time I've stood there in person to take part in it. So,
yeah, and I know in the past, like we would have like DRB members would bring their iPad or laptop to actually have the applications, in front of them a little bit more, so you're not having to. That way, you can be still reviewing and looking at parts that you want to look at in the application while they're presenting up on top, right? Kind of.
Yep.
Now you guys have always been used to just being able to scroll through, the application as it's being presented. You don't really have that functionality in person unless you have your own device in front of you. But, you get the whole, we get the whole, you guys still, we used to just set up in a U basically. It'd be like a U setup. So there'd be, I think it was, 3 or 4 people and then 2 on each wing or something like that, depending on kind of how many people were coming that day. But from a consensus, is anyone, utterly opposed to, going to a quarterly in-person DRB agenda? I think right now we have tentatively the idea is maybe April, July, and October. But those are kind of the tentative dates of being in person and kind of working toward that kind of for this year, and then maybe in 2027 we could position where full DRB everybody would be it would be every full DRB meeting would be in person in 2027. Emily, you got a question?
Yeah, it's sort of to do with if we're going to do in person, which I think doing quarterly is totally fine. I have 2 sort of comments, 2 sort of questions. One is I think that if we move to doing it in person, I would politely request that either we shrink the agenda or it is like we have a hard stop, even if the application I feel like we'd have to take fewer applications because it's a different thing to get out of a meeting at like 10:15 and to be able to just roll over, go to bed, whatever. But if we're driving and then we're all we're dressed to the nines, you've just now asked way more, especially of the female members of all of the staff, to the amount of energy and effort and everything that we have to put in order to get to the meeting, get home, get undone and get to bed. And so I would like say that we would have to shrink the time. Like we would only take like 1 or 2 applications at a maximum during those in-person meetings, which to me just seems honestly like, a sacrifice worth making if we're going to do it in person. And then the other was one of the things that I thoroughly enjoy is the ability to mute people, especially those that are more contentious. And I know that I will struggle with that in person. Where
Well, I get a gavel, Emily, so I get to like call order so people don't keep
I
talking.
love that. I love that for you. And if it's only full DRB meetings and you're having to call people to order, but like I sometimes I will go off camera during our meetings because I'm getting so frustrated with a human being, and I'm like, I want that to happen in public.
Yeah,
So
I definitely think my experience with when people are in person, it's a lot less. There's not going to be that as contentious of discussion happening typically, at least from what I recall. Like we never got into.
I don't know. I've seen some news articles, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like we're a board of education meeting or something, right? It's pretty, and so the way the affected parties work, also within person, would be people have to come in. At least in Cam, correct me if I'm wrong, if the process would be different, but they had to. If anybody came in to speak, they would have to sign in with their name and address, and then what application they were there to speak. As an affected party, or an interested party if they had not registered ahead of time, because sometimes there'd be because for the bigger projects, people sometimes just show up because they know there's a meeting happening because it's a public, people would, it'd be public notice for RTC North as an example. They may not register as an affected party, but might show up to be as an interested party. And then we would go and have you would have your 3 minutes, and it's a lot easier also to control, I think. There's a lot, how should I say it? There's a lot less people who are willing to come up to a microphone and speak on something versus coming on a Zoom and speaking for time. I would say it is definitely different. So I think we have more quality of that aspect of meetings. And I think we would have to figure out how we call the agenda, because I agree, but I also think our full DRB meetings, we don't really have huge agendas. At least we haven't, in my opinion, in the last 2 years. They've been pretty relatively light. I mean, our panel meetings have been heavy, but I feel like the full DRB meetings have been pretty light, and maybe I'm having amnesia, but I think we definitely could call it, depending on what they are, we could control the applications to 2 or 3. But for 30 years, the old chair used to show up in just Hawaiian shirts. So the dress code is not a huge ask, I guess would be my only thing. Mike B.
I was just curious, Michael, in terms of where we are relative to, I guess, durations on the board. Cam kind of alluded to, you're the only one who's had one in person. I've been on for a long time now. I've kind of, you and I are probably the old guard at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe Brian, and Brian's getting up there too.
Yeah. Are any of us in danger of rotating off? I'm losing track. Maybe it's because I'm getting old, Cam, but.
Coincidentally, Michael is in his last 3-year term. So I believe, Michael, you've got another 2 years, and then you have to roll off for a year.
How many times can you be doing this?
A DRB member can serve 3 consecutive 3-year terms, so 9 years total. And then a year off. You have to be off the DRB for at least 1 year.
Yeah, I was young when I joined this thing. Now I'm about to have 3 kids. So it's been a change. So yeah, I think, but I don't think I go off until 2028, I think, if I'm correct. So, there's still a while.
Yeah, I was just curious in terms of,
and I think the big reason why I'm bringing it up again, and I think, we kind of brought it on the agenda, was because of the Southlake students. I think the goal was to try to give this a trial run for April meeting, to allow them to be able to present in person. Their teacher has been asking for it for a couple of years now. And I do know it is a big difference. I mean, you can see it even, as organized as we tried to be with, what speaker was speaking on what, right? It still was a little bit chaotic. And I think, presenting in person allows them a little bit extra experience that they're not getting right now. So that's why we're trying to do for April. I believe LaShonda was trying to tell me, or maybe it was Cam, our April agenda would basically just be them at the moment, and maybe
No,
maybe
your April meeting, that's actually on the list as well, scheduling. We have a lot of tentatives on the schedule, and I don't want to derail your conversation about going full board, but your April meeting could be a very heavy meeting. And it's only because of appeal requirements, as well as you have Larka and Vantage Hill, and we have to save room for them every meeting until the cooling season. So, I can't guarantee that we will have a short agenda for those meetings.
And again, I don't want to, take over the conversation, Mr. Wood, but I mean, does that counsel in favor of trying the hybrid scenario? I mean, for instance, for April, I don't know what the date is for that, but I mean, my assumption right now is I could probably do that in person. I think we could probably get a handful of the board in person for that. And then with the hybrid scenario, is that we require, if you're presenting, you're in person, and give the option to the board members to be hybrid. Is that a workable scenario?
Well, right. And so if Emily, if the agenda is too long, theoretically, when do you guys need to know that a DRB member would be attending virtually? Just like the day of, day before?
I would say at least the day before, at the very least. It would be great to have it by Friday when we send the
agenda,
any final changes.
I kind of feel like the hybrid option I'm a little concerned about. I feel like we all need to be there or all hybrid. I feel like same for members who are presenting and stuff like that. I feel like either or will just make it cleaner.
So if I can comment on that, so I think, I mean, I live in Reston, but I work in Alexandria and all over DC. It's very difficult for me to make it to Reston at a certain hour. And now that I don't have kids at home, like I don't have any obligation to come home at a certain hour and leave at a certain hour. So for me, panel meeting is definitely a no, because I'm usually at the office at that hour, and after those meetings, I have a couple more hours to finish my day off. So I cannot make to panel meetings at 5:30 to Reston back. Every month or every other month or quarterly, for me, it's okay to be in person. But I feel like not every project is actually calling for an in-person meeting. And I have an experience where they drag you. I don't know how it's in Reston, but I attend to a lot of them in ANC and DC and other places. In Alexandria especially, they drag you after the meeting and they corner you and they just ask more questions. So that's something I want to avoid. So I don't know how we can avoid that, let people go out, but I don't want to be cornered in a corner and by some neighbors or somebody asking me questions. So what has been your experience, Michael?
I had never been, I didn't even thought about that. I'm sure we can work a secret door, out the back for us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, or just let everyone go. So
unfortunately, it's from what I recall, it's a one-way hallway out. I mean, there's got to be a back door because it would not meet fire code the way.
I mean,
designed. But
yeah, that's a problem.
But
like,
I have never been, kind of cornered per se. It obviously there is staff there. But I've never experienced that, but not to say it, I can't promise it doesn't happen. I have no idea though.
I mean, if somebody makes a comment specifically for a project, like for example, just for the lack of a better example, Emily had better, wisteria like nodding and other stuff, that she had to comment on. And with her experience also, it's a little bit more her field. So let's say, in projects like these, people will be asking you after the meeting's done a lot more questions. But that was the only thing. Like, I just want to be able to get out of there.
Yeah. Well, and I think, it's going to be a slow transition for everyone. Also, people who have been to these meetings, who have only been to them in virtual presentation wise. It's a little bit different to come present in person, who have come before us before virtually and then now have to come in person. I think, it'll be a workaround, it'll be, everyone will be doing something new. Um, but I see your point.
The other thing that Michael, the other thing that I experienced is the day we were doing the air conditioning, you and Mike B was actually in the office and I was joining virtual. But if someone's talking about some particular drawing, these virtual meetings, like the person on the other side is like, I don't know what's going on, like what are you commenting on in the particular drawing? So it's either everyone or none. I mean, if you do the hybrid, then a lot of people will choose hybrid. You'll be on your own. Just
You mean I'll be
you
hanging out
want
there by myself?
you want to be.
Well, and I think the reason why I was thinking the hybrid for just the DRB members was because in case something came up. So let's say, you were in DC late and you said, "Hey, Michael, I'm running late. I'm not going to be able to get there by 7, but I can get to my office and I can join." That's why I was more asking Cam also, like, what's the latest that they could kind of know. I'd rather have you join and help add to the discussion than miss, and then we only have 5 board members in person, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, especially if, it looks really bad, specifically if we're in person and we only require in person, and then all of a sudden we can't even make a quorum, our first meeting because people are running late or people are,
Yeah.
it's just that's more of a logistical thing. Like, I know, ironically enough, like this April meeting, it's like the one time my wife has to be in DC that day, and I don't know what time she's gonna be home, but I'll figure it out how to get there by 7. But like, it that would be my only reason of why having hybrid as an option. But if Cam needs to know by Friday anyways, then it maybe doesn't, you know, it doesn't help. Or if somebody's a little bit sick, I was thinking, if you're coughing and you don't really want to come in because you don't
Yeah.
want to spread anything, right? You can attend virtually, and because you're not sick enough that you want to miss the meeting, but you want to just be able to attend virtually. I thought having it as an option, so maybe we say hybrid with high encouragement of attending in person for DRB members, would be my
Yeah.
recommendation, because I get the all or nothing statement, but I feel like there's sometimes just one-off reasons of why you maybe can't make it, and especially I know lately I feel like I've been going through every other sickness that my kids get, so not spreading that to you all would be probably much appreciated. So that's the only reason why I like the hybrid option. But
Okay, let's give it a shot in April. And then the other thing is these are they going to be able to bring the model? I mean, the only reason the in-person meeting that they should attend is if they bring physical materials.
yeah, correct. And I think that would be part of that, the presentation. I think we should, definitely, let them know we would love to see what they have and bring them so we can touch them and get, a little bit more tactile with the material and see it. Emily, you have a question?
Yeah, something Gaze said kind of got an idea flowing in my head is, could we as the DRB say this is a project that we would prefer to see in person, and we vote on it to go and see it in person, rather than it just being like a schedule thing where, oh, we're going to be in person for once a quarter or so on and so forth? Because I think it is like, for some applications, I do agree, it is like nice to be in person, especially these kind of community-based things. But would there be a potential that, during, I don't know, like the previous DRB meeting, we vote on if we want to meet and look at the next agenda in person or something like that? Because I feel like it might be every quarter. There might be something that we want to see in person every single month, but we could specifically like nominate or ask people, like, they might say, hey, I would like to present this in person. And then we'll be like, okay, yes, there's enough of us that would meet in quorum and come in. Or, hey, they might even not ask to be in person, but we'd look at their application and go, gosh, we think that this is something that would be better viewed live. I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Cam, I think, has a thought.
So one of the reasons why we suggested the quarterly when we were talking to the chair was that we were going to be intentional about scheduling those applications that needed in person to those quarterly meetings. But the other side, Emily, is that in theory, yes, the DRB can most certainly do that. It does add an administrative layer because we schedule things super in advance. So like right now, we're already scheduling things to May and we're holding a pattern until we get confirmation in terms of whether it's going to be in person or virtual because we have to do notice requirements. So it is a little bit more of a challenge if you go that latter route of voting and then the DRB notifying, because then you're going to be delaying essentially a potential applicant. So if the DRB is okay with that and comfortable with that, then we can make those accommodations and make that happen. And just know that because of the noticing requirements, let's say it's Reston Town Center North, right? If we don't know already that those are going to go to your full DRB meetings, there's a 21-day notification requirement that they have to publicize where the meeting will be. So you're thinking about timing. You could be 2 or 3 months away from when they would have otherwise been able to be scheduled the next month. So just be aware of that.
Well, and also on the flip
Fair
side,
point.
if we reviewed something in March, let's just say we had reviewed something this meeting and then we had deferred it because we wanted a little bit more information and it was a virtual meeting, and then deferring it to the next full DRB meeting would actually be an in-person meeting for this calendar. Or we reviewed something in June and then we deferred it. It had to be reviewed in July. Now we've just made potentially our agenda longer if it was, because if we defer something, there's usually a time frame of when we have to review it again, right? To meet a certain clock. That's kind of like why there, or is it only appeals that have time frames, Cam?
Well, all applications are required to be responded to within 60 days. So
Gotcha. Okay. But if we have already heard it and we're deferring it, then we've heard it. We've met the 60-day time frame then.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do is let's, unless anyone else has anything to add, I mean, I say we take a vote on it, or someone make a motion, I guess technically would be with what they think. I don't know if we need to be that formal, Cam, or not. But I think we should just take a motion just to, see.
We do need a motion.
Stands. Okay, you do need a motion. Okay.
So one question before we do that is the thought process in doing the April, July, and October, whatever, just like for us to like kind of dip our toes in and see how it goes?
Correct. And I think we would reconvene, whatever, in November, let's say, whatever. We talk about it and then plan, because that's usually when we're doing the schedule for next year anyway, for 2027. So then we could start, planning out, okay, do we want to do it again quarterly? It was working, or do we want to do it, every full board meeting to be just in person? I think we could then reconvene back in November. And you guys may say, I hate it and I want to go back to virtual. and that's fine too, right?
All right. Well, Brian just came off mute like he was about to make a motion.
Go for it,
No.
Mike B.
Mike B's going for it. All right. Mike B makes a motion to have us attempt a quarterly in-person full DRB meeting, as noted for the 3 windows just discussed.
And would we, for some further discussion on that, would we we would encourage in-person attending by the DRB members, but allow allow hybrid if needed for scheduling sake, or for, I don't know what the right term is, but it's highly encouraged to come. But, if you need to attend virtually, I think we should have it as an option.
For the DRB members.
For the
not
DRB members only, yeah.
Correct. I would accept that addition to the motion.
All right. Does anyone want to second that?
Can you repeat it?
So,
It's like,
I think what we were trying to get
what
out
is
was
what is going on?
we're going to try a quarterly in person for the full DRB meeting. The goal being in-person attendance by the DRB members with the understanding that in the event that you needed it, a hybrid option could be available to, again, exclusively the DRB members, and that the applicants would be attending to present their applications in person.
When? And but starting in April?
Correct.
I think tentatively we have April, July, and October. And now we could, I mean, our next agenda item is scheduling, so that would be the only thing if it's worth talking about, Cam, first, because if you said our April agenda is heavy,
Bring some cots so we can nap in the back room.
Yeah,
that's an option. No, I mean, Michael, I mean, that might be proof of concept right there that, like, look, this is crazy talk.
But we may be setting ourselves up for the first bad and impression, basically, is what I'm,
Fair enough.
What note I saw was potentially RTC North would be coming May, and like that would be one that I think would be better to see in person versus frankly, LARCA may not be the best one to have for, as virtual or as in person, but because of scheduling, them and Vantage Hill need to come, they'll probably be at a May meeting as well. So it's probably one half does the other, to be honest. So it maybe doesn't matter, but.
Well, I'll tell you what, you want to let the motion die and we could defer action on this particular topic until we have the scheduling conversation? I mean, does one inform the other? I'm just curious.
I think what I would say is if we just amend the motion not to include direct meeting dates yet for in person, and we have a consensus that we want to do in person quarterly, but maybe this year we only do 2, and maybe it doesn't start until July, right? I was trying to get it in person so the students could present. Yeah. That was the main goal. And I think May is going to be too late for them. I don't know, the school year may be extended by like a month, so who knows? But
potential further discussion to help in both the scheduling conversation and moving our motion forward. Could we say that we are limiting ourselves to 2 applications or an hour and 30 minutes per application, whichever comes first? So that way we aren't sitting in a meeting that's going to run until 11:30 because we took on a massive agenda for our first April meeting.
Yeah, I mean, Cam, how many agenda items do we have in April that it currently looks like?
Let me go through the list.
Oh, geez.
Oh my God, more.
You have, as of right now, all of this is tentative, but this is what's tentative on the schedule. Mm-hmm. You have an appeal from 1638 Water's Edge. You have the 1390 Concord may be ready by the April meeting, which is the review of the substantial concrete patio and all of those things that were happening, as well as his appeal for the mailbox.
His appeal for the mailbox.
He appealed the mailbox decision. The Vantage Hill is tentative. Isaac Newton Square is coming back for their proffer requirements for a work session. And they're also going to present on 1850 Old Reston, which is the Fannie Mae project. Then LARCA tentatively, and then the STEAM team. So
could we I mean, I know that there needs to be recording and all that, but for the student project, could we assemble like a 3-person panel and just go and help them out there and in school, or do we do field trips? I mean, just
what we could do is we could do something similar like how we met with LARCA, where we just do, as long as we only have 3 members, as long as we don't have a quorum, we can do kind of a work session that way with them. They still need to come back though for final approval, but they could, theoretically that panel, I think that's my panel. The panel meeting before, they theoretically, well, that's not as virtual anyway. That doesn't work. But yeah, I think that agenda. I mean, the definites are for sure probably Vantage Hill and LARCA, right? And then Isaac Newton sounds like a pretty definite.
That's big.
But Isaac Newton, we theoretically could push, right?
Yeah, you all could decide to push whatever you'd like, if that's
kind of part of that scheduling conversation.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, to Gazde's point, I'd be willing to carve out, a couple hours and go in the, close of the school day or whatever earlier. You know what I mean? Like we could probably carve out a small in-person non-quorum meeting session, right?
Yeah, we just we need to
Yeah,
figure
I mean,
out
Emily
when
just
the-
texted. She'd be happy to help the kids. So there you go. You guys are two already.
Yeah, so we would just need to know, when their class is and like, is it
Yep.
an after school club or is it a class? Like I honestly I don't know. I think it's an after school.
This is kind of where I feel like we just need to like rip the Band-Aid off and choose one or the other and move
Yeah.
forward, because I feel like
I'm trying to be nice.
we're gonna have this happen. We're like, oh well, Isaac Newton's coming up, or Reston Town Center North, and I know we just met in person last month, but now we need to meet in person again. And I'm kind of the opinion that we just need to
Okay. I
go all in or not.
Well, then let's just take a vote on the in-person motion that's on the table. There was a second, I think.
It was.
And if
I don't
there's
know
not
that there
a second,
was.
then maybe Brian just seconded it. I don't
Well,
know.
I want to. I like half of it. I'm not totally in favor of the other half, though. Sorry.
Which was the other half, bud?
The other half was about allowing the hybrid option.
Like, he wants all or nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
that's the motion that's out there right now.
We can-
We could call it or
Wait.
let it
All
die.
right, so if I don't get a second on the motion, I'll let that one die, and then somebody can make a new motion. All right, no one's seconding it, so that means nobody's kind of fighting for the hybrid. So I'm gonna let that motion die, and then I'm gonna make Brian make a motion because he has an idea.
Yeah, Brian.
Michael, you are not gonna drag us to this and make me make the motion.
All right, I'll make a motion that we have in-person DRB meetings with no hybrid option, starting quarterly for April, July, and October of 2026. Do I hear a second?
I heard you say full DRB, right?
Full DRB, correct?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
With the understanding that before you call for the vote, that obviously if people have a conflict, they can't make it happen. They can't make it happen. So it might be difficult to find quorum some nights. But here we go.
Correct. And that's part of, that's part
of the game.
Situation. So we'll, we have 9 members, so luckily we only need 5.
Right. So I was just putting it out there. So on that note, I'll shush now.
All right. So I'll just do a roll call vote because I'm not going to be able to hear everybody.
Yep.
So, if you're in favor, I'll do a roll call vote, a yay or nay. So, Brian,
Yay.
Mike B,
Yay.
Gazday,
Yes. Yay.
Emily,
Respectfully, nay.
Samantha,
Yay.
and I will also vote yay. And I think that's everybody. So motion passes 5-1. Band-Aid ripped. All right. Scheduling. Well, moving on to next agenda item, scheduling. We kind of touched on it a little bit. Specifically, Cam, are you wanting us to weigh in on how many we're willing to take for a full board meeting? Is that kind of what you're...
So yeah, I wanted to give you kind of like a rundown of some scheduling things that you should just be aware of that are coming down the pike. And then if you do have any thoughts on the April meeting, I'm happy to take them. So I went over the April items. We can continue to work with the applicants on some of these things, especially if it's an appeal for an existing element. There is no consequence to the member who is requesting that appeal, or it already exists, and so there is no detrimental impact to them and being delayed potentially. So there are some opportunities there if the applicant is okay with moving those things. But I did want to make sure that you all knew Reston Town Center North has requested to come to the DRB in May for the I think I sent you all an email earlier this week or yesterday, I can't remember, with some of the changes that they've made and some of the feedback that they've taken from you all and incorporated into their project. The other thing that I wanted to mention is We have been working with Vantage Hill. You all reviewed an application in November of last year with a work session on their proposal for the HVAC systems due to the RELAC no longer being operational, as well as the work session last month in February with LARCA. It is becoming very clear to us that there's going to need to be some potential flexibility from the design review board in terms of scheduling those applications. So we are putting a placeholder on both the April and May and potentially June agendas specifically for those large applications that may be coming in, as well as making you aware that there may need to be a need for a special DRB meeting specifically for those two properties. As you all know, we last week went through one day being 83 degrees and then the next day being snow on the ground. So we are dealing with a lot of people who are concerned with making sure that they have adequate, really health safety, technically, in my opinion, when it comes to the upcoming summer season and cooling season that's typically there. So need to be aware of the flexibility to call a special DRB meeting, a full DRB meeting. Staff will continue to work through some of those things and those challenges if a full DRB meeting can't be met in the April or May season. We have not received an application from either Vantage Hill or LARCA as of today relative to coming through and getting approval. And as we all know, when there is a registered affected party, final decisions of the DRB require that review of any appeals submitted by an affected party before the application can be finally adjudicated with a final decision from the DRB. So there is a nuance that's already built in terms of whether or not something can move forward or not.
When do you need applications from them for the April meeting? Like because they also have to notify their people. So I'm sure we have people on the inside that could tell us if they've been notified about what's coming, right?
Yeah, so the positive side of that is that we've had kind of work sessions, and so the notification has been somewhat built in. But for April's meeting, it depends on what it is that they're requesting, but we do generally ask for at least 10 business days lead time, which is almost about 2 weeks technically, to make sure that we have provided any affected parties the opportunity to register.
Okay.
And so they are aware of kind of the deadlines that they're working up against for us to be able to communicate those things. But also, one of my other things with scheduling is that you all are going to see a large increase in applications as well, potentially. You all are thinking about Vantage Hill and LARCA as creating standards, condominium standards for their HVAC systems. But as we've currently been told by both LARCA and Vantage Hill, they are the units themselves are the responsibility of the unit owner. And so that would require an independent application from each unit owner to install a unit. We are working through some administrative things to kind of flush that out a little bit, but that may still require you all to be impacted from potentially panel meeting requirements if there's a registered affected party or there's concerns. And as we all know, it's not internal only for affected parties. It could be adjacent property owners from neighboring clusters that could also be affected parties. So we are working really diligently trying to make sure that we are crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's through those processes. But I just wanted to forewarn you all that you may start to see some applications on panel meetings that could impact the time relative to those things as well. And then we do have at the last board meeting in February, we did discuss that the Resident Association Board of Directors would like to have a joint meeting with the DRB and the Covenants Committee before the end of July of this year. So that is also something that I think you all would like to have as well, given the comments that you all have received from the board relative to the design guidelines, which are still in a hold pattern from the lighting and the real estate signs that we've talked about in the past. So I just wanted to make sure you all had kind of like a scope for the next half of the year. There are a lot of things happening within the association, so you all should be prepared for that. But if there is any comments on what you would prefer to see in April out of those things, with keeping Vantage Hill and Larka on as a precursor, we have confirmed Isaac Newton already. We haven't told them whether it was going to be in person or not, but we have confirmed them. So if you do have any additional,
they're just a work session, Cam. Sorry.
that's correct.
And we've seen them. What's that project? Have we seen them or no? We haven't seen them.
You saw Block N2 about 2.5 years ago.
Those are the big apartments right along the golf course.
Correct. Well, yes.
And they have like that elevated walkway or whatever it was, and there was like an elevated walkway kind of around the trees and stuff. Okay.
Correct.
So they have another block. So it's just a work session that they're trying to check a box.
Correct. Their proffer required them to come to the design review board for comment.
Yeah, I mean, I think leave it open. I think one thing with Larka is there any other, I don't think we ever got a final application from Hickory Cluster.
A final application for what?
Cluster standards for Larka for AC units.
No. So they came to the work session and then they went to the Fairfax County ARB on March 12th.
No, not Larka, Hickory Cluster.
Hickory Cluster is not in the does have a standard.
I thought they never passed one. I thought that was the reason why we've still had to review individual ones. They never officially passed one, and that's why Michael always comes to the meetings and says that. Is there something officially passed? Okay.
There is a established cluster standard for Hickory.
Is there any clusters that are outstanding on RELAC that would be potentially coming?
No, the most recent panel, I believe, last week approved the last two changes from Waterview Cluster and Colson Cluster.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure there weren't anyone else out there that was going to need a guideline.
All clusters have a cluster standard for their system. So if you all are seeing them, it's because there's a registered affected party.
Gotcha. So to me, if we have like 4 items, if we have a work session, an appeal, and then have 2 new business, let's call it, if they're with the AC, if it's with a RELAC situation for April, and then we have the South Lakes presentation, I guess would have to, I mean, we would have them go first. I wouldn't make them wait there the whole time. Because frankly, the Isaac Newton's going to go quickly. It's not going to be I mean, they don't even have to incorporate our feedback. It's kind of to be fair, it's a pointless proffer. So that would be my only suggestion. So maybe we could have 5 items on that agenda, which one would be for South Lakes, which we've already seen relatively would go quickly, maybe 30 minutes. A work session with Isaac Newton, probably 30 minutes. And maybe we just say we cap them at 30 minutes for a work session. And then have an appeal if needed, if they get the stuff in, and then have 2 RELAC applications once again if they get the stuff in. Because it sounds like they may not any of those people may not get stuff in, and then our agenda item may only be 2 items anyway.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you guys sound with kind of 5 items and capping work sessions and things that are, non-binding? I'm not gonna have a work session drag on for an hour and a half at a full board meeting just because they're trying to check a box, as an example. Are you guys good with that?
Yeah, I think we'll have to get, better about, making motions quickly.
Well, in a work session like there, I think we just make we just have a clock almost and let them know, like, hey, we have tight agenda tonight. You guys have 30 minutes to present and have feedback, and then we got to move on. And maybe we extend it by 5 minutes if someone has something really solid to talk about. But them specifically, and I'm not trying to be, curt about it, but like they don't even need to take our feedback and do anything with it. So I'm not gonna, extend my night for, any longer than I need to be, right? So I'd rather get to the meat who actually is a part of our association and needs, you know, needs our guidance and feedback and motion. So um
Out of curiosity, Michael, I don't know, this is just a sentence that I hear. Can we have time limits where, like, I don't know, when you're watching C-SPAN, you hear people say, I cede my time. Can we, like, for our review and comment, could we be like, okay, all of us have 5 minutes maximum. And if somebody has no thoughts and opinions, you can just be like, I cede my time. And that way somebody knows that they've got extra bandwidth for our conversation. I am trying to think about how we move these along without gutting the idea of, like, we don't want to do things with speed and not just because we want to do them fast, right? Because then applications are going to kind of fall through the cracks. You just want to get the agenda over with. But if someone truly, if we say, okay, each of us has, each application has 30 minutes, like you said, for a work session, or each application has 5 minutes to present from the applicant. If it's a cluster, 3 minutes, I don't know what the rules are, but could we look at, when we look at these agendas, just instituting time limits across the board so that or at least time suggestions so that everyone's cognizant of how long these things are truly taking.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think the only thing we can control, and Tony's on, so maybe he can correct me if I'm wrong. I know we can control affected party time. I know we can control,
Yeah,
like
you were timing them, right? In the LARCM.
for affected party stuff we can, but we can't. I don't think we can limit an applicant to a certain amount of time for like their application, and then like basically come, like, what happens when the 30 minutes is up? We just come to a head and be like, okay, does anyone want to make a motion? And we just stop all conversation. Like, especially if they're going for an approval or going for something at that point, I feel like we need to. I feel like our board is pretty, pretty quick in making adjustments. I'm probably the only one who is long-winded sometimes. Tony's raising his hand to give me legal advice.
So under Robert's rules, you could adopt special rules for time limits. It requires a 2/3 vote of the body, but you can say we will only debate this agenda item for 30 minutes, and then at 30 minutes, it's either put a motion together or you move on.
Can we limit application presentation times? Like, some people just like to, they kind of go on and on about stuff. Is there a way that we can basically have a running clock that is 30 minutes, let's say, as an example, and then I can either extend their time if they need it or not? Is that a Robert's Rules thing that I could do as well?
I think it's a Robert's Rules thing. I think you could also do it via resolution. There's nothing that says that we have to give an indeterminate amount of time for an application presentation. So you could definitely, say we're going to give you 30 minutes and then extend as necessary at discretion of the body.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, especially with, some of the presentations could take longer. I think there's certain ones that we maybe want to take longer, and there's other ones that we don't need to take longer. Like, as an example, let's say on an appeal, and an appeal, sometimes it can drag out a little bit. And so, like, having, okay, you have 15 minutes to state your appeal and why you're appealing, and then we'll have discussion for another 15 minutes, and then if needed, and then we'll take a vote. Cam?
I was fortunate to attend a Fairfax County ARB meeting last week, and I believe they limit their initial review of applications to 8 minutes, and then 3 minutes for any follow-up or additional information relative to the next time they present the same application or a continuation of that application.
Yeah, but the difference is, don't they have a staff? They have a staff report, though, don't they? That is prepared for the members.
Well, you all have a staff report as well.
Well, not for full board stuff.
You don't have the suggested motions, but you'll certainly have a report.
Well, you don't have an opinion on it, I guess, would be with the Fairfax and the Leesburg, like for other board meetings, like the staff actually prepares a full, 10-page document with their, okay, this meets this guideline, this doesn't meet this guideline, et cetera, et cetera. At least for historic boards, they usually have a
No, we don't
suggested
have
motion.
that kind of
They don't do
report.
that for Fairfax? Okay.
No, no.
I'm not
we
suggesting
we
that
have
time
a-
frame, but I just
we
wanna
have a report for non-application project that they are overseeing. Could be potential issue, but not the application. Application just come in as an application.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, a time frame is a good idea though. I think just having it, and even if it's not something we really like announce, or it's just more of it, like Emily suggested, where it's kind of almost like if any of you guys play golf, where it's like you should be on this hole by, hole 44 minutes, like your pace of play, like
Yeah.
so then I, as the chair, also then have a little gauge. Okay, it's 8:15. We're at 45 minutes. Okay, I should already be on application H, and I'm only on G, and then I can
So,
kind
I
of
mean, a lot of, I know a lot of ANCs, they give you time in DC. They give you, we think you're going to be around 8 o'clock, so it's 8 to 8:30. There's 2 applications, but if you're finished at 8:15, the next application can be, present. So we could kind of gauge the timing in our, or you could make the timings, it's just like 7 to 7:30 is this.
Yeah, maybe I just need to see the agenda, and then I can kind of put together a time frame. It's just so I have a pace of play diagram for myself, so I know, where we stand, and then we can, at the end of the day, I can always, as Tony said, I can always, especially from in person, I can call to order and just kind of stop the person, and then we, move about our business.
You want to do that. That's why you.
No, I'm just saying it's gonna.
That's what you want to do. Have the.
That's my mute button. That's my mute button. So anyways, it's just, I do think, what do you guys think of the 4 to 5 items, and 2 out of the 5 would have basically time caps, maybe even 3 out of the 5 would have time caps, depending on, maybe everything kind of has a time cap overall, but that for sure items that need to be quickly decided, like I'm not going to let an appeal go on for an hour and a half. At the end of the day, we need to decide whether there's new information or a misapplied guideline. And if we can't do that in 10 minutes, then, we're not a very, thorough board. And we'll just have to deal with it. We'll have to take a vote, and we'll just take a vote. To me, I feel like I could get an agenda, and we could create a kind of a time frame accordingly, from that.
Yeah. And as long as we're expedient with the decisions, and if you've got something to raise it. Otherwise.
Yeah, agreed.
So my question on these, I mean, it does hit the full DRB board also. This mailbox application appeals and things like that. That one problem person that sucks up all of our time, I guess, staff time and all that. Like, how do we go about that? This guy doesn't, piecemeals. I think it's Concord Point.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I do think having to come in person and not being prepared necessarily is going to be a little bit more of a turnoff. As an example, if he's told, hey, yep, your appeal's set for April meeting, it's in person, come on over. Like, he might be a little bit more prepared, is my hope. I would assume he wouldn't go and want to be in person and feel, half naked, when you're presenting. So that's my hope. But speaking of time frame and kind of moving stuff along, I think scheduling, I mean, Cam, do you need anything from us on that? Do you need?
No, I think I got it. It sounds like we're looking at, for April, the South Lakes High School first, Isaac Newton as the 30-minute time frame, potentially the appeal, and a placeholder for RELAC in Vantage Hill.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, the last item I think is just the Fairfax County ARB. I just wanted you all to have an update. I sent you all a kind of recap of the informal feedback that was provided by Michael Bianchino, Gazday, and Michael Wood. Thank you so much for volunteering to meet with LARCA. I think it was a very helpful conversation for them. And coincidentally, I think a lot of the comments that you all provided aligned with some of the comments that the Fairfax County ARB provided to the applicant. As a one of the things that you all are familiar with is that LARCA, because they're in the historic overlay district in Fairfax County, has to have ARB approval as well for anything that would require a permit. And so we are not able to review an application together. We have tried to work with the Fairfax County ARB and kind of work through some of the things that are pain points for members who are going through both processes. And there was a determination made that we could not have a joint meeting with the DRB and the ARB. And so what we committed to was that when something that required a large application such as LARCA, we would be communicating and having an improved method or stream of communication with them. And so at your February meeting, we compiled the draft meeting minutes and we presented that to the Fairfax County ARB at their March 12th meeting. Unfortunately, because we're not sure of when their agenda is set, we didn't have a lot of information in terms of what was coming to them and when LARCA was going to be presenting to them. But we did catch it. We were able to send that information to them. I attended that meeting and presented the minutes to them, and then took the comments and feedback that they presented to the applicant, and will be providing some additional details to you all in the next week when their minutes are posted and the recording of the video of the meeting is also posted, so that you all, the next time you review that LARCA application, you have the feedback from the Fairfax County ARB. One of the touching points was screening. Screening did come up, and it's something that I think you all are pretty much aligned with in some aspects. And so I just wanted you to be aware of that. And as we continue to kind of go back and forth, we do need to be thinking about being more collaborative and cohesive with the decision making, because one decision from DRB can impact whether or not they can get the same approval from the Fairfax County ARB as well. And so we do need to try and make sure that we're information sharing. And so staff is committed to making sure that you all have the information when you make those decisions. Any questions on that? Awesome. So Michael, that was it.
Cool. The only thing I did want to comment on was the Reston Town Center North kind of discussion of them potentially coming back. I frankly am tired of talking about the Central Green, and until they have massing of what these going on these blocks from a size perspective, I frankly don't care about the project until they get that together. And it's a waste of my time every time they come back with. I mean, I think I've reviewed the Central Green probably 7 times at this point. And I don't even think I'm kidding. I think it's literally been 7 times over the last 5 years that I've seen the exact same thing kind of move around a little bit. And so, and they still don't have massing. They finally had some heights. They finally had something, but they didn't have setbacks. They didn't have what streetway areas, anything like that we have suggested time and time again. And there's no reason why they need to keep getting a conceptual approval for a green that is frankly not changing. And it's a waste of our board's time. And so until they have more information, I don't see the benefit of keep reviewing it unless they need for some reason, which I don't even think they do. Like develop it a little bit more and then come back. I'm just tired of seeing the same thing.
Is it for financial reasons, like they're trying to keep a loan going or something? Because I mean, if there's a financial dip in it, then they would have to get like, oh, is this approved? Is this approved? Okay, they have to keep coming back.
I can't imagine so. I mean, it's fair. It's county it's county money, so I can't imagine.
That's true.
So I don't know how you feel about that, Cam, and whether we can just tell them like, hey, we need more information. It's just, I don't know. So that's just my opinion.
Can we ask them?
I don't have an opinion. I don't have an opinion on that, but what I could suggest, they are asking for May, and what I could potentially do is set up a meeting, Michael, with the chair and any other DRB member, as long as there's not quorum, and you all can discuss exactly what it is that they're looking at. It's hard for me to communicate what they're asking because sometimes I'm not entirely sure, you know, our conversation was I'm looking for final in concept approval, and
Like that's no different than what they have.
so I think that they just want to make sure that they're on target for not having to come and start from scratch. That's my vibe that I'm getting, is that they want to make sure that they're keeping things moving. And if they make changes, they want to make sure that the DRB supports it so that when they do finally come through, the DRB doesn't say, well, wait a minute, what about all of these things that you all have already settled on? So that's what I feel like that's why they're coming through.
Agreed, but like that's like it's like reviewing. I mean, like let's say we approve the green, and then they come in with buildings that are all 17 stories surrounding the green, and then the green now is in a shadow the entire day. Like you don't. My point is we've asked for that, and they've slowly they finally brought some height limits, I think, and some density of like a round number of like this block's gonna have 1,000 apartments. Okay, great. You have 1,000 apartments. Do some massing studies. Figure out what your floor plate is. Are you going to do a big Texas donut? Like, what are you going to do to fit 1,000 units on a block? And let's start discussing that, because I think that impacts the green. And there's, at the end of the day, I don't, the green is not, unless, and I don't know if there's a way we can look at the application ahead of time. And I'm happy to, if someone else wants to join, happy to meet with them, or even just, jump on an hour call and just review the application that they have coming before us. And then we can determine whether it's ready or not. I think would be worth my time, so we're not then discussing it.
Yeah, I would volunteer to come with you or discuss it with you.
I'm happy to also volunteer as tribute.
All right, well, I think we can take one more tribute if anyone else wants to join. So, just let staff know. But I think that would be preferably my suggestion, RTC North for May. And maybe we can push them and say, hey, we're going to have an in-person meeting in July. Can you guys have some massing studies done and ready for that in-person meeting in July?
Is it okay to tell them, hey, we've got a pretty booked schedule, and this is a lot of changes, and can you come next month or something like that? Or or just ask them blunt, what has changed in the screen? If it's just a little road, we can review you a little bit later. What is the importance of this change?
I think that their approach is very flexible with the design review board. I don't necessarily know their timeline on things because it changes. But I most certainly think that having that conversation, we can share the feedback that the DRB is sharing now and see what their timeline actually is, and if there is any stringent requirements that are coming down the pike that they need to be ahead of, we can build that into whatever we suggest in terms of coming back.
Okay, cool. All right. Anyone have anything else? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Here's a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do we still have 6? No, 5. No, 6. Emily's there, but I don't think I heard her. But 6-0. I'm just gonna say she said yay. I think. Emily, you there?
Dogs are screaming yay. There you go.
I'm gonna just put her as absentee. 5-0-1. She's absentee voting. All right.
Still carries.
Motion passes. Thanks, guys.